So we're going to start today in seated posture. So I'm going to use my block since I've got one. And I'm going to try for Sukhasana. So bringing the heels in towards the groin and letting the knees sink out to the side. So if the knees don't come all the way down to the ground, allow yourself to use the blocks underneath or cushions just to pack under, so you can actually stretch and relax the groins at the same time. We'll just take a little bit of time to breathe here. So I'm going to wriggle the spine out a little bit, roll the shoulders around a couple of times, loosen the jaw, closing the eyes. Think about bringing the pelvis back into a neutral position so the spine lifts gently out of the pelvis with very little effort. And then let the breath slowly even itself out. Now I'm going to gently adjust and just untangle the legs and fold them in the opposite way. And then bring the palms together. Just interlace the fingers, forearms rest against each other and rolling the wrists around a little bit. So just getting a little bit of juice into the muscles and tendons and ligaments in the wrists. And then we'll shake out the fingers. Now take the hands behind and interlace the fingers again. Start to lengthen the hands away. And then gradually start to squeeze the shoulder blades together. I'm going to try and lift the hands away from the floor a little bit, but not so far that it starts to push me forwards or down. Still going to see if I can lift the chest towards the sky. And then I release. Let's make some big circles with the shoulders. Get a little bit of movement through the spine at the same time. So it's almost like a mini cat-cow, but coming from the shoulders rather than from the pelvis. Let those relax out, and we'll take a side bend to the left. So I just walk the palm out to the side. Take the right hand up. Go fold it over, just follow the line of the body and lengthen out through the fingers and let that bottom elbow bend. If you can keep both sitting bones on the floor, otherwise keep the arms straight. Try and keep the head in line with the body. It's very easy to kind of drop it over, but it just stretches the neck out unnecessarily. And we'll press into the floor to come back up, and we'll take it out to the second side. So just a little walk, a lift, a lengthen out, and then soften if it feels good. You can always try, and then if it doesn't work, just press back out again. And we'll press away, and we'll untangle the legs, and we'll take them nice and wide. And we'll just make sure we're right onto the front edge of that sitting bone, so you might just want to wiggle forwards a little bit, and then take the hands out in front for churning the mill. And this is where we take it out to the left, draw it forwards, over to the right, and draw it back. Rolling around. I remember when I started yoga, this felt like the most unnatural movement imaginable. It was borderline torture method for me. My body just could not allow itself to move in these ways. Let's see if we take it the opposite direction. Glad to say that gradually over time, my body has become more accepting to it, and actually, I really enjoy it. My lower back feels much better after I've done this. When the arms do get a little tired, see if you can keep them the same height from the floor all the way around. Come around for the last time. Sit up nice and tall. Just let the hands up behind the back a little bit, and we'll lift the chest up towards the sky. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, draw the belly in. We'll press out through the heels, spread the toes, and have the feet point up towards the sky. And then we'll just draw the belly in, press into the fingers to lift up. Loosen off the back of the knees, cross the ankles over, we'll come up onto all fours. I'm going to take cat-cow, since we're here. So just drawing the chest forwards, tucking the tailbone under, letting that spine rise up towards the sky. Using the opportunity to spread the fingers out, getting used to being connected to the ground fully. We'll come back into a neutral position. Tuck the toes underneath. Sit a little bit more into the heels. Let the knees lift away from the floor naturally, and use that to propel ourselves into that down dog. And then just step out the feet a little wider if you need. I'm going to walk the feet out. First down dog of the day. It's always a bit of a surprise for the heels, the arch of the foot, the lower part of the calf muscle into the back of the knee. Stretches out the hamstrings up to the sitting bones. Drawing the belly in and tilting the tailbone up towards the sky a little bit. To lengthen out that lower back. Turning the armpits down towards the floor a little bit, keeping the knuckles connected to the ground. You don't have to walk the dog out. I just find it a nice way of warming the body up first thing in the morning. So if static or holding bent knees works better for you, that's fine. The heels don't need to touch the ground. In fact, if they're a little bit raised, it's a better position for the body. Gives you somewhere to move into. That's the theory anyway. Now we're going to walk the feet in gently towards the front of the mat. So we're going to keep the feet about hip distance apart. And I'm going to choose to still pedal the legs. And obviously by doing this, the heels get closer and closer to coming to the ground. We'll get to a sticky point where you have to come up onto the fingertips to let yourself waddle into the front of the mat. And then we'll take a little breath. Bring the hands onto the hips, lengthen the spine, and let ourselves lift up. Now we get a little bit of a head rush. So whilst that's clearing, we'll take the hands to the sky on the breath in. Bring the hands in towards the heart, exhale. Take the hands out wide again and up to the sky. Allow yourself to press down through the feet evenly into the floor. Feel a little bit of rebound from the ground. Last time coming up with the hands. As we bring the hands in towards the heart, we'll start to exhale forwards into that forward fold. And then softening the knees so the ribs and thighs can touch. Bring the hands onto the hips again. Lengthen the chest forwards to lift up slowly. Inhale the hands high. Again, we'll take that 3 times. Exhaling down. Just discovering how the weight transfers through the feet as we get lower to the ground. Hands onto the hips. Lengthen out. One more time. This time we're going to soften the knees a lot more, so we can gorilla roll gently back out. So keep the spine rounded, drawing the belly into the spine, the head lifts last. Hands come high. We'll take this 3 times as well. Hands into the heart, lengthen over, down, big softness in the knees, squatting back into the chair almost, rolling back out. Inhale high. And last time. Nice and soft. Roll it out. Inhale to the sky. I'm going to come down to the floor this time and use the right foot to take ourselves into a lunge. We'll drop the heel onto the center line. Bring the hands alongside the hips and lift the body. So we draw the spine out, squeeze the shoulder blades together. The cart will open up into Warrior 2, keeping the front knee position. Inhale the hands towards the sky. Rotate the body. Come down to the floor. We'll step it back into plank. Take a little breath. Let the knees come to the floor. Bend the elbows, chest down. Low cobras will lift up. Exhale away. Inhale. Lengthen the legs towards the back of the mat. Exhale it down. Inhale one more time. And letting ourselves drop. Bring hands to the bottom of the ribs. Keep the shoulders and elbows back. We come up onto all fours. And as we do, we'll take the right foot forwards again. Allow ourselves to make sure the knee is over the ankle, and then lift the hands forwards and up. Draw the belly in. Press the back shin into the floor a little bit. Let the hands come down to the ground. Tuck the toe on the back foot in the lunge. Press out through a strong leg. Push off the toes. Forward fold. Hands on the hips. Lengthen the spine out. Soft knees. Flat back to lift. Just a little walk up to the front of the mat if you moved away. Hands come high. Exhaling down. It's going to be the left foot that leads this time. So taking that to the back of the mat into the lunge, dropping the heel to the center line, hands alongside the hips, we get the little lift. On the exhale of the breath, the heart will open. Then inhale the hands high, rotate and lengthen out, down to the floor. Stepping back into the plank, taking a breath. Bending the elbows all the way down to the floor. Inhale high for low cobra. Exhale down. Inhale up. We'll take one more lift. Hands to the bottom of the ribs. Hold the shoulders back. Come up onto all fours. Left foot comes through. Take the hands forwards and up. And tuck the toes on the back so you can press the shin into the floor. There should be a sense of lift from the ground, but not quite actually lifting. And then we'll bring the hands to the floor. Into the lunge again. Strong through the back leg. Press off the toes. Coming forwards, the hands onto the hips, we lift. Step forwards again a little. Hands to the sky. Exhale down. Going to lead with the right foot to the back of the mat. Drop the heel in. Lift again to warrior two. This time we're going to take the hands up towards the sky. Rotate the body forwards. Palms face into the center. Fingers are strong, stretched out. We're going to lengthen out. So the front knee stays over. And the back foot is flat to the floor. Now, quite often we do this with a raised foot. This is going to feel very different. I'm going to try and bring the pubic bone over the center line. And then we'll come down to the floor. We'll step it back into our plank. Lower ourselves down to the floor. Take the breath for low cobras. And exhale. Inhale. And back. Two more breaths there. Bring the hands to the bottom of the ribs. Press away. I'm going to sit back into the heels a little bit and lift into down dog. Always roll the right knee to the chest and through to the front of the mat into the lunge. Take a breath. Press off the toes. And we're into forward fold. Hands under the hips, lengthen out and lift. We'll take the hands high again. Hands into the heart. See if we can remember how we did that on the left side. So taking the left foot back, dropping the heel in, we lift. We open up into our warrior two. Stabilize the hips and knees and feet. Bring the hands overhead. We rotate out, we stretch out through those fingers, lengthen the arms away. Allow ourselves to come forwards. Turn the hips a little more into the center line. There's a lot of work going into this front side, drawing the hip towards the back of the mat. And then bring the hands down. Step it into the plank. Bend the elbows to ease yourself to the floor. Low cobras. We bring the hands to the bottom of the ribs, lift up. We start to sit back, we lift up into our down dog. We'll settle. We'll draw the left knee into the chest for the lunge. And then press off the toes to the forward fold. Hands come onto the hips and we lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. And we're just going to let hands come to the side of the body. I'm going to move that block back on to the mat. Now I'm taking mine towards the back of the mat purely because I have a habit of hitting my fingers on the lampshades. So you can put it wherever you are if you haven't got that same problem. I'm going to bring my feet onto the corner edges of the block so the toes are pointing out. Let the hands come in towards my heart. It's nothing to do with yoga, it's just physics. I'm going to soften the knees and let myself sit down. Now as you do, you're going to try and draw the pubic bone forwards a little bit so you keep the spine upright as much as you can. You're going to lean forwards, you know, you can't not do that. And then once you get to the bottom, you'll take the hands out wide and lift yourself up a little bit. All the way, fingers to the ceiling, hands through the heart, back into Balasana. Let yourself to exhale on the way up. Bring the hands into the heart. All the way to the floor. To the ceiling. And down again. Just got a couple more. So hopefully, by coming slow, the tendency for the knees to crack and creak is a little bit reduced. And it's kinder on the joints. We take the load a little bit more into the muscles. Come down for the last time. And then I'm going to bring hands to the floor. I'm just going to lean forward enough so I can take the heels off the block. Move it out of the way to the side. I'll walk the fingers in towards the front of the mat. Let myself move into a down dog position. And take the right leg up to the sky. Keeping the hips square, just lengthen out through the legs and the toes. And then bring that foot to the floor gently. And hinging the opposite leg up, trying to keep the weight even through the shoulders, hips. Just using that core muscle a little bit to keep ourselves stable. And then we'll bring the foot down to the floor. Walking the hands to toes, meeting in a forward fold at the back of the mat. Exhaling my way in. Bring the hands onto the hips, lengthen out to lift. We'll shake it all out as I come up to the front of the mat. Take a nice breath. Inhale the hands high. Hands into the heart. Exhale it over and down. Now I'm going to step the right foot to the back of the mat. Drop the heel in. I'm going to lift myself into my warrior two. We know how to do that now. Take time to lift up. Going to keep the front knee steady. Lengthen out. Bring the forearm onto the front thigh. Wrap the top arm around the back. So looking for the fingers on that front thigh. Now, if you want to take it further, you can take a little breath and slide your forearm down inside of your thigh so your hand comes to the floor, keeping the chest open. And then if you want to take it even further, you're going to take that hand away from the floor underneath your body, hook it around to find some fingers, and reset the chest and the hips so you bring them back onto the center line. Lengthen the body out from the pelvis. Remember to press into the back foot. So a number of options. Now we're going to release the hands, keep the bend in the knee. And take the top arm up towards the sky this time. Just slowly start to straighten the front leg. I'm going to lift up onto the fingertips, and then I'll bring the hands onto the shin or the ankle very low, so we just crawl our way into triangle pose. And then we'll soften the front knee, come back up into our warrior two. Inhale the hands high. Rotate gently down to the floor. We'll lift the heel on the back foot into the lunge and then step it forwards to the forward fold. We're going to take about 3 breaths here so we can let the spine hang out of the pelvis and down. Press into the feet evenly. So just checking the weight is equal sides, front and back. Draw the belly in as much as you can to lift the hips up, making a bit of space. One more breath here. Bring the hands onto the hips and lengthen forwards. Soft knees, flat back. It's like a mantra. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. We're going down again. Left foot back. Drop the heel in. It's the warrior two lift. Exhale it out. And lengthen over that front thigh. Just checking the front knee doesn't travel. Forearm comes down. Just lift up to the top to help open the chest and then take the wrap of the hand round. So to start with, I'll try and go for the thigh. Waistband will do. That head position is really optional to the participant. If it's easy to look towards the sky and the neck, it'll challenge your balance a little more. You can look to the side. Feels a little bit easier balance-wise. We can look to the big toe. Let's see what you're doing. Now we're going to let ourselves come back down to the ground a little bit lower. So we slide the forearm down, palm to the floor if we can reach. Maybe this is where we stay. Maybe we can take the hand away from the floor and around the back. See if we can find those fingers that were moving towards the thigh. Try not to lean into the front knee. Keep the knee over the ankle. Back foot is planted. And lengthen the spine out a little bit. Try and keep the breath soft. We'll release the hands, hand to the floor and a hand to the sky. Going to slowly lift into triangle so that the front leg straightens. Come away from the floor a little bit for my body. Maybe you can keep the hand on the ground. Maybe you have to lift a lot more. Just pressing into the big toe joint of the front leg. Rotating the ribs around to the sky. Lengthen the body out of the pelvis. Last breath here, we soften the front knee. Bring ourselves back up. Warrior two, float the arms overhead. Rotate down to the floor. Spin the back heel from the lunge. Take a little breath. Step it forwards. Again, we've got those multiple breaths in the forward fold. I'm going to step back from here and arrive in tabletop. Going to allow ourselves to bend the elbows, bring the chest down. Slide the feet back. So as the elbows came to the ground, we were in a nice position where we can take Sphinx pose. So just ease those elbows in a little bit. So the forearms want to be more or less parallel, palms down. Press down into the floor with those forearms. Draw the chest forwards and the belly in. Try and turn the heels out a little bit. Make some space in the lower back and lengthen the legs away. Now trying to have some softness in the buttocks and the lower back. So it's about making space and length. Now I'm going to take a little breath from here. Turn the palms inwards. Bring the hands together so they're into prayer. Interlace the fingers. Tuck the little finger underneath. You're going to tuck the toes underneath at the back of the mat. Draw the belly in. Press down into the forearms. Draw the shoulders back. And lift your bottom away from the floor into an elbow plank. Remember to breathe. Now on the class plan, I had cleverly put in that we were going to do some leg lifts here. But to be quite honest, my legs feel like they've done enough work already, so I'm just going to stay in the elbow plank. Take one more breath. And then on the exhale, lower it gently down to the floor. I'm going to release the hands. I'm just going to take my left hand forward so I can roll onto my right side and roll onto my back. And then once I've done that, I'm going to draw the knees in towards the chest and extend the toes up towards the sky. And point the toes out. Take the hands above the chest, palms face in for a little alternate legs and arms. So left arm, right leg, almost touching the floor. Coming back slowly. Exhale them down. And inhale them up. And then my legs are getting tired at this stage. So pointing out through the toes, trying to keep the muscles around the knees engaged. Haven't got too many more to go. Should still be able to feel the buttocks nicely engaged. A little bit of a tough rump. I'm going to take a last one. Bring everything back. Knees in towards the chest. Little hug. So draw the chin in towards the chest. Wrap those arms around the shins. Release the feet to the floor. Allow the legs to lengthen out as we gently roll back onto the right side. And lift ourselves up. So at least we are now facing the front of the mat. I'm going to take Dandasana just for a little bit. So I'm going to bring the feet together, just draw the flesh out a little bit. Now I've got my assortment of bricks and blocks close by as well. Just have the hands a little bit behind and let ourselves sit up nice and tall. Now we're going to slowly release. I'm going to start off by taking the legs out wide as you can comfortably. So I wanted the legs to get used to the idea of being flat to the floor and the hamstrings lengthening out a little bit. So we've got the back of the knees used to the idea of being low to the ground and the toes pointing high. We're just going to take a little turn to the right. So I'm going to use the left hand to the outside. The right hand comes behind the hip. I'm going to try and lift the body up. And I'm still going to lengthen out through the heels a little bit and have the toes pointing up towards the sky. So I'm going to do a little bit of a check to make sure where they are. I'm just going to sit here and wait. Watch the paint dry. Focus on our breath. Those muscles are still trying to work out how to be strong but balanced and rested at the same time. Hopefully you can start to feel those sort of subtle changes and movements in the body. We'll take ourselves back towards the front of the mat just for a breath here, and then we'll rotate to the opposite side. So when you're taking these slightly longer holds, you can start to feel muscles, understanding how they need to react and support each other. There's a lot of communicating going on in the body. Not necessarily the mind is getting all of it, but the body is working wonderfully. You feel all those little changes in the texture of the muscle. Finding a little bit of space for yourselves underneath that. So we'll release from that side as well. And this is where our enormous pile of bricks or the strap can become useful. So I'm going to work onto my my right side, and I'm going to take the bricks and blocks on the inside of my thigh and lift them up nice and high. And I take the hands behind the back of the head and just interlace. I'm going to turn my chest towards my left leg and slowly lengthen myself out. Now, as it happens, I need the bricks and the blocks a little bit further away. So I'm going to allow myself to place the elbow onto the ground. Lift the opposite elbow up towards the sky, so that helps roll the shoulder out. And I'll lengthen out of the pelvis. Now, the alternative to this is to use the strap around the foot. Help yourself move out towards the end of the toes a little bit. Still try to press out through the heels and have the feet high. If you find trying to draw the top elbow up to the sky is a little bit too demanding, you can take the hand around and either find the top of the thigh or just the back of your trousers. Now, if you have got bricks and blocks, particularly if you've got bricks underneath you, you can press the elbow lightly into the floor by just pressing your body down a little bit, just a fraction. Now, obviously, some people are going to get a lot lower. You could even, if you've got enough range of movement in the body, have the elbow to the floor or indeed pressing on the thigh. So we're almost there. Belly's drawn in a little. Breath is a bit more into the ribs. We're taking that last breath in, and then slowly lift ourselves back up. So that's a biggie. I'm going to take my bricks and blocks, my sort of construction materials, across to the other side. And then I'm going to turn the body, this time towards the right leg, and lean out to the left. Hands behind the back of the head, get a little bit of height, and then lengthen out and over. Allow yourself to move your blocks around. Try and keep the toes pointing up towards the sky and spreading out a little. Remember, the hand can come around the back to find the trousers. It's just demanding on the hamstrings, as well as the side of the body, and obviously the lower back. We're taking precautions to keep ourselves, in a nice, safe place with supports. Almost there. And we'll take a last breath and let ourselves lift up, untangle, move all of these bricks and blocks out to the side. And I'm going to bring my trusty block underneath my bottom. And use the hands underneath the back of the thighs as I lean back a little bit, or just to release those legs. And there will be quite a bit of sensation of release. I'm sitting up nice and tall. I'm going to take it into a seated twist. So we'll just take that left foot under, right foot over, get the sitting bones onto the ground. We'll take it into the closed twist. So we'll bring the left arm across, turn towards the right side. Now we're going to release the chest to point towards the front. We're going to move the right foot towards the right sitting bone, and then place the hands underneath the soles of the foot. So just flexing the foot towards me a little bit. I'm going to lift the heel off the ground so I can get the spine to be nice and flat, and then extend the leg out towards the sky into a heron pose. I draw the chest towards the sky, lift the belly out towards the ceiling and forwards a little bit, so it just helps with the pelvis drawing forwards, shoulders draw back a little, press out through the heel. And then release. Take the legs out again in the front. And then we'll take the right foot underneath and out to the left side. Left foot comes across, sitting bones to the floor. Going to rotate the body gently over to that left side. And again, we'll release. Take the left foot over towards the left side. Bring the hands underneath the sole of the foot. Lift the heel off the ground so you get that flatter back, pelvis more into neutral. And then we slowly extend the leg up and out. Got slippy feet on this side. And then release. Now I'm going to come down to the floor. And I'm going to use the block towards the back. I've already got my blanket close to hand for a little bit later on, just a minute or so. I'm going to keep the knees high, use the hands to help myself roll back. I'll come into a happy baby. I'm just going to take a little time to let the shoulders wriggle out and the hips as well. And then when you're ready, let the knees come in towards the body. Let the knees go wide, keep the toes together to touch. Chin comes in towards the chest so you can watch the hands slide along the shins to the outside edge of your little toe. And then lay the head back down to the floor. Get the spine nice and long. Get the back of the neck long as well. And then when you feel ready, you're just going to lift those heels out towards the sky a little bit. Try and draw the tailbone down to the floor. So imagine that you can lengthen and feel your tailbone moving away to the front end of the mat. See how that makes the hips feel different. We'll take a little rest from there. Just let the legs fold back in again. And I'm going to start to move my blanket into the position. I'm going to do a very bad job of, I have to say. There we go. And then allow yourself to take the feet out to the corner edges of the mat. So if you haven't got a blanket, just maybe some extra layers. We're going to be here for about 3 minutes or so. Trying to lengthen the legs out, lengthen the hips away. Let the arches and curves of the spine flatten out a little bit. Let the muscles release and relax. Now we'll slowly begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Allow the wrists and the ankles to move. Deeper breath leads to a big stretch. And then ease the knees in towards the body for a final hug. Or just a simple rock from side to side, whatever feels good. And then we'll gently roll onto our right side and stay there for a few breaths. And then use the hands to press into the floor on an exhale. Ease ourselves back up to sitting. Fold the shoulders out a little bit. Get comfy. And then gently bring the hands in towards your heart. As you close your eyes, take a deeper breath. And as you exhale, let the head drop. Bow gently to the floor, sealing our practice for the morning. On the inhale, let the spine build. Raising the head, opening the eyes. Namaste. Have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you for joining me.